Geocachomaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads episode 369. This is our special hashtag #iHeartGeocaching headquarters. Actually, it's just GCHQ. Sorry about that, guys. It's been a long night already.
Entirely divisible by 3. An
Yes,
episode
it is.
Ooh. Should say. Yeah.
Ooh, that's kind of
Speaking of puzzle caches.
Yeah, there you go. Daryl, how are you doing this week?
Oh, I am amazed that I'm still awake. How's that?
Well, I'm amazed I'm still talking and I haven't hacked up a lung yet, but it's getting better. I went through most of the day with no issues. I sit down in front of my microphone and there it goes. But you know what? I don't have to do a lot of talking tonight because we have some incredible guests with us. First off, we have Lobotomy.
Hi.
He tells me that was by choice he had a lobotomy. And Rick, you are from the Unpacking the Power of the Power Pack podcast. And that's a lot of plosive P's all in a row.
We try our best. We tried to come up with what would be the most awkward thing to say that was still a bit of alliterative and also would just drive everybody's mics nuts when we started talking. So I think we nailed it perfectly.
Perfectly. Pleasantly perfect.
Powerfully, pleasantly perfect.
Oh. And a returning guest from the friendship episode, which wasn't that long ago, but man, it feels like it's been years.
About a half a year.
About a half year, yes, but it hasn't been years, despite what it feels like to me.
Yes.
Dog years. It's like 3.5 dog years.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
But for anyone who doesn't recall, we actually ran into each other at the Giga Stock, where we also ran into G-Slink, but somehow, Gary, you managed to completely avoid Lobotomy.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed each other, although we think we saw each other there because Rick had on glasses, and and that's how I noticed him.
That, and also I was wearing the geocaching t-shirt too.
That's right.
That one, yes.
You were the one wearing the geocaching shirt. No, we did see each other there.
Glasses and a geocaching shirt, you'll stand out in any crowd. Yes,
exactly.
You were like in the middle right of the picture, weren't you?
I think so. Actually, to be fair, I think I might have also been wearing a kilt too. So,
I would have really noticed that, I think.
And I would have avoided you.
Nope, you didn't. That's where we met.
Well, he tried. He just failed.
There you go.
But tonight we are going to be talking about the hashtag #IHeartGCHQ, which is an entire week that the Geocaching Vlogger has kind of set aside to, in part, thank Groundspeak for all of their effort. So before we get into it too much, part of this is that he wants to show Geocaching HQ the love that sometimes they probably don't get because, well, we all like to pick on Geocaching HQ for everything that doesn't go right.
Somebody's got to be the bad guy.
Exactly. So we'll include a link on the show notes to the snail mail. But if you want to send like a card or a special gift, like I like sending my favorite lackeys things like path tags and coins and pins and that kind of stuff. You can do that to Groundspeak Inc., 837 North 34th Street, Suite 300, Seattle, Washington, 98103. Chris, did I get that wrong?
98103.
Well,
no, you got it right.
Did I get the whole address wrong?
Oh, no, you got it right. It's still Groundspeak Inc. And I just put it in the show notes. 837 North 34th Street, Suite 300, Seattle, Washington, 98103.
So there you go, guys. If you want to send a gift to a lackey, that's where it goes. Or to all the lackeys.
Send them a bunch of cards. Send them some fudge. I don't know what else.
They probably like cash.
They probably would like large amounts of cash. You know what? Just grab the biggest bill you can and just send them one.
Do not send them a whole bunch of quarters. they frown on that.
Pennies.
And as I understand it,
delivered.
The hamsters no longer need food. They're well supplied for, so don't send them any hamster food.
Some German geocachers several years ago actually sent hamster chow to the headquarters.
They did. Yes. And it wasn't just German. I think they had it from a couple of others as well. I know some Australians sent something, but I don't think it was the food. I think it was like toys
Wallabies?
or something like that. And for anyone who might be like, what the heck are they talking about? The joke had been for a long time that the geocaching servers were run by hamsters, powered by the hamsters.
Powered by hamsters.
Yes.
On little wheels.
Yeah. And this is after several outages that they'd had, one of which was their data center caught on fire. Not their data center, but the data center in which they had their servers.
Right. Which was, it's just several miles away. It was still in the same metro area. But yeah, I mean, it was a data center that, took a big chunk of Seattle's internet down.
Well, and a lot of other stuff too, including a lot of credit card processing actually ran through that one.
Wow.
I don't want the credit card processing, just the place where they keep all the credit card bills and the debt. If that can go away, if we can get like a Fight Club on that, that'd be great.
Okay.
We don't talk about Fight Club.
Nope. Didn't talk about it. Nope.
Is that the first rule of Fight Club?
Always is.
What Fight Club?
Yikes. Okay. So
we already got Daryl to say yikes. This is going to be great tonight. It's going to be awesome.
Let's talk football.
White Coaster asked about the videos with hamsters. And yes, they did release some videos with hamsters a long time ago, but they no longer do the videos.
I think they're probably still out there somewhere, though.
They probably would be because they were posted to YouTube.
Yeah, they're still out there. And, they may have jokingly said, the hamsters are having trouble keeping up. And they kind of went with that and made it a theme for a while. Every time they had a server update, we had to get new hamsters or
we had
clean
to
the
hamsters
or something to that extent. Yeah.
Which, if we're going to talk about some of the things that we like about Groundspeak and what they do, I think that's a big thing right there. They do not mind making fun of themselves. They do not mind laughing right in the face of whatever flies in front of them. They're called lackeys. They talk about the hamsters. They do a lot of things to really lean into the jokey, the fun, the enjoyment of everything. So yeah, I think that's I think that's one of the things that helps make it friendly and helps make it light.
Oh, I agree. And they take themselves seriously, but not that seriously. They understand it's a game. They understand it's for fun, and they're all for making things that are fun.
Yeah. I think that's part of the appeal, and I think that's part of what has kept everybody really interested as it's gone on for so long.
White Coaster said there are 5 videos, by the way.
5 videos with the hamsters. Yeah.
Right.
And some of those, as they pan across the scene, there'll be a hamster in there. So it's just, something, if you know what you're looking for, it's funny.
Well, I will miss those videos. Reed was the lackey who used to produce those, and she's moved on, and they decided not to continue making those videos. And
she did an excellent job. She was an excellent videographer.
Oh, absolutely. And it was amazing stuff, well produced. And I wish I could have flown to some of the places that she did to go caching, but
there's that.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth?
But yeah, she did such a good job. And at this point, they're not going to replace her because they're doing other things. And really, there's so much video on geocaching out there produced by the community. So let's give a big shout out to all of the vloggers and everyone else producing those videos. It is wonderful to get perspectives of different caching around the world, and even to just have that armchair caching fix when you can't get outside, like this weekend when it was -8, I think, out here, and just nasty weather to be outside.
Fahrenheit,
yes.
Oh gosh.
It's coming from Gary, who is probably
terrible.
sweatshirt on because it's 60 degrees outside tonight.
Yeah, it's brutal here. Let me tell you. I'll pull it up in a second. But something that I wanted to point out real quick was it's 41 outside. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die.
How are you staying alive?
I don't know. We're gonna start burning stuff in this house and start making a fire. That's what I'm saying. No,
Gary, you send us our address so we can send you cords of firewood.
Thanks.
So you could make it through this bitter cold winter.
Wait. Was that coordinates for firewood or cords of firewood?
Coordinates to the firewood.
Yeah.
Well, no. One thing that I found interesting was it's actually I'm not trying to name drop, but I did speak one time with Brian Roth. We had him on the show. Name drop, no, president. And one of the things that I made a comment about something, and what was interesting is that they tend to, and the same thing with Rock Chalk, is they, even though they're they're geocaching.com, but yet they kind of at times will sit back and they'll watch what geocachers and different people do, and they, in a sense, they feel like they're applauding, and many times they do, or they're applauding the geocachers. So they're not trying to ever one up, hey, wait a minute, y'all are just geocachers. We're geocaching.com, that kind of thing. Do you like that voice, by the way, Chris? Do you like
that was very well done. It sounded authoritative.
Thank you. But what I'm saying, that they're very much fans of the sport and fans of us, the geocachers. So I appreciate that they can do both. They do their job that they need to do for that. We appreciate, but also they can turn around and look at it from the perspective of them geocaching and watching us do things. So that's cool.
Yeah, Gary, that's a great point, because they really do support the community that in turn supports them. Yeah.
And they really look at, they don't, I know they get a lot of beef. I mean, they get a lot, not good beef. We're talking about bad beef, but they get,
no, they're not
like mad cow beef.
Yeah. They get mad cow. They get lots of mad cow beef. I mean, people complain about we're not gonna get into that tonight, but anyway,
people complain usually about other people.
Well, true. Well, they complain about them too. Why are y'all doing this? Why? How come Planetary Pursuit came out in this date? Why don't you have it come out a week earlier? Whatever it is, it's just dumb stuff.
Don't you know I was traveling and that was inconvenient to me?
Right. Exactly. Here's a good example. Don't you know that I work during this day?
Why can't you please everybody?
Right. No, Rick, it's why can't you please me? Because that's who it's usually related to. It's their own.
Yeah, it's all about me's.
Yep. Me's. So, but I mean, they really put up with a lot of that. And I know that it's got to be a pain for them, but they kind of accept it and they work through it. And, I think they have a pretty good positive attitude, as Scott mentioned in the show notes.
I was just going to say in the chat, GSM times 2 says he really likes what Brian is doing, getting input from geocachers with surveys and other ways to seek input. And I think most of those surveys are actually coming from Rock Chalk now. So we have to give him a shout out, not just for being a cool guest on our podcast, but also for doing all those surveys, compiling the data, and then probably throwing it in the trash can and making us think that he was not. I'm sure
no,
Chris, every chance we get.
Oh, that's true.
And if you do have stories and you're listening live, go ahead and throw those in the chat and we'll share some of those. And I did see someone has a letter ready to go that was Cachesaurus. So I'm wondering what that letter is. Maybe it's a letter G for geocaching. I don't know. That's a letter he's going to send them.
I see what you did there.
That was cute. Very cute.
Sorry, it had to be. If I didn't do it, Chris would have done it.
Like Sesame Street. Tonight's show is brought to you by the letter G.
And the number 3.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys.
No, they do a good job of trying to keep things fresh. You were mentioning about the different kinds of souvenirs that they put out, the different kinds of events that they hold, the different ways they just try to keep the community interested and coming back for more. That's another thing that I think I like about what they do right.
Mm-hmm.
And also working with the communities too. I know that in Portland, they've worked really well with a lot of the parks and a lot of the local communities to figure out, okay, there's a lot of geocaches out there. Can we make sure we're doing it correctly? How can we make a good impact upon the city, upon the different communities? How can we try to make the nice balance between the resource for people who are not geocachers with the people that are geocachers, and how that all works together? So things like, doing the cache in, trash out events, just everything that they do with the people out there, they do it very well. And I think between them and the volunteers, it works pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. White Coaster says the Groundspeak crew is a lot more responsive to the players than some other GPS-based games.
Mm-hmm.
And Cachesaurus says that we are just like Sesame Street, and he does have young kids after all.
True. Rick, something that maybe it reminds me of when talking about how the community and they interact with the community. Think about, and you guys can speak probably more to this, especially Chris being up in that neck of the woods. And well, Rick, you're in Oregon,
Portland, Oregon, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you two for sure. But when they found the remains, well, they found all of it, but they found the pieces of the ape cache. They didn't sort of put down an authoritarian, we're not going to do, we're not going to bring it back, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. They didn't do that. They really, I think, took some time and said, well, let's get people's feedback. And so, I applaud them for taking some time to, and I don't think it was just empty feedback. I think they truly felt that they wanted, and I think they really did. Don't you think they wanted to get some input? And that's really cool. That's not something you normally would get. As Gary pointed out, there's not every game is going to ask their players what they think.
Well, and the impression I had from talking with a couple of the lackeys at that point was they really didn't have any expectation of a couple of the options they put on the survey. However, they wanted to put them on to get the feedback, and were open to trying to make that work if that had been the overwhelming response.
Right. I hear you.
So they really, I think, have been going out even before the change from management from Jeremy to Brian.
Right.
And I think it really just, they recognized that they needed to change, and probably Jeremy just had enough of it for a while.
You need to
turn it over.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, he's not that public personality that is Brian. So they're both great guys. I've chatted with both of them. I'd love to chat with both a lot more, but Brian is just much more of that outgoing.
I
don't want to say salesman, but definitely has that I'd love to chat with everyone all the time kind of feeling to him.
Different personalities. I mean, they really are. I mean, but like you said, no, not any less passionate was Jeremy. Just like you said, he was just a different personality.
Oh, yeah. And he's been doing that job for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you were doing the same thing, which I know there's a lot of stuff that changes, but if you were doing the same thing for 20 years and had the chance to change, wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
I was going to say that I don't think it's only Jeremy and Brian, but I think it's going back to something that I think you said, Gary, about all of the people who work there, the different lackeys that work there, and how they communicate out with the people. That's another big piece of it as well. Just the fact that the employees are not faceless employees behind some wall. They are out there meeting with the communities, meeting with the different people. We've had lackeys come to our events here in Portland.
Right.
We've got Shampooey, which we do every other year. We've had Jeremy show up there. We've had lackeys come there. We've got Andreas from Germany. He's flown all the way over from Germany just to be there. They come out to these things. They mingle. They enjoy being part of the group, and that's enjoyable as well.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
You know, the last time I saw Jeremy was at GeoCoin Fest, which was here in the Seattle area, and he was, I have to say, the most relaxed I've seen him in years. So I think
pressure was off. Huh?
I think this was a very good move for the company. I think
and for him personally too.
Exactly. But Rick, you brought in that the lackeys coming around.
Yeah,
the lackeys are almost celebrities in their own rights. I mean, everybody wants a lackey to come to their event. Oh, if a lackey comes, now it's a real event. So that really, I think, amplifies the effect of geocaching headquarters is that, hey, I'm going to go into the headquarters. I'm going to see a lackey. And, if I'm lucky, maybe a lackey will come out to one of our events. They try to get them out to all the big events each year. And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, you get to see the people who directly affect the game, which we love.
Yes.
Well, and for them, it's also been a huge source of real feedback.
Mm-hmm.
They're stuck there in their offices in Seattle, and all they probably hear are the complaints. So this is the only time they're really getting out to hopefully get more than those complaints and really get a better feel for how people are caching. And, they like to go caching themselves and get a feel for what caches are like in different territories.
Right.
I was trying to find a lackey tag. You guys probably have one around you, but what
yeah.
a cool idea! You have a lackey tag there.
Yeah, this is Black Hawkinger.
Yeah, there you go. See, what a great idea that they got for their lackey. They sort of promote, in a sense, the lackeys all have their own lackey tag. I mean, that's
well. And don't forget the lackey coins that they do every year.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. There you go.
Yeah.
See. Perfect.
Of course, we got loves.
And then you're talking lackey coin. Where's here it is. It fell down. This one, when was this?
Oh yeah, the book.
The book. This was the first book. They've done a couple of books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So they have the 8-bit characters.
Mine right there.
Which are a lot of fun.
I'd have to run to the next room to get all of mine, but I've got them all tagged up too.
No problem. But you get what I was going at, though. The fact that they've got. I mean, that's just a cool doodad that they have to provide for them, and they seem to really have a good attitude about their.
Yeah,
someone.
That's me.
Cell phone ringing.
No.
So this is a 2009 lackey coin that I got Jeremy and Brian both to sign.
Oh, that's awesome!
So,
cool idea.
I'm jealous.
That's cool.
That was during the GPS Maze events. It wasn't my idea. The person in front of us said, "Would you sign the coin?" It's like, hold my spot. I got to go get my coin.
Yeah, you're like, that's a cool idea.
All right, a couple of things from the chat. We've got GSM times 2 again, who's I think going for the award for most contributions in the show. The fact that lackeys will pave their own way to mega events speaks volumes for their enthusiasm of the game.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Which is very true.
Yeah.
And then Wet Coaster asked if Groundspeak was behind the volunteers reviewers coming out. For the first few years, he had no idea who the reviewers were, even if he cached with them. And yes, that was a change that they had made based on the feedback from the community, because they were getting a lot of complaints that the reviewers were faceless and they didn't know who they were.
Yeah, this faceless person who I've never seen says, no, I can't have a cache here. How do they know?
Right. And that was originally for the protection of the reviewers so that they didn't get harassed. So I totally understand why they were secretive.
Mm-hmm.
But
now they encourage him to come out within the first 6 months.
Yeah.
You can stay private for the first, couple of months, but after that.
Yeah. So I think I think it's a good change, but I don't hear the hostility that we used to hear toward the reviewers. And I think a lot of that goes to the guidelines have been a little bit more stable and people understand them. Of course, we still have the problems with like the event stacking that people don't like, but they understand that it's not the reviewers that are the problem.
Right. I understand there may be some lifting of that stipulation.
Of
I would
stacking.
not be surprised.
Not event stacking, but lessening it so you can get events a little closer together.
Yeah, I know that there's been a lot of talk about that. The current rules were designed to fix a problem, but it probably went a little bit too far overboard.
Well, those tend to be called hot tub rules. They're rules that were made for the hot tub because somebody did it.
That's good.
Right?
Yep.
No,
exactly.
no wearing tennis shoes in the hot tub. Well, that's a silly rule.
Somebody did it.
Yeah.
Well, and something I mentioned before the show, sorry, Daryl, is the fact that megas and gigas, I think, should have been, in my opinion, should be different because, to me, it's different than regular, but that's just my opinion.
Well, the problem had been that we were seeing events that were, I want to say it was only half an hour apart. So people were putting these events that were geographically separated by not a whole lot of distance, but enough distance that you had to go check in and travel to the next event, but you could do then like 10 events in a day.
Yeah.
Which is not the spirit of it.
Right. Exactly.
And that said, I did put together a fall color crawl that was intended to get people to go caching up this one coastline during the fall. So we had 4 events spaced apart. So, I get it. I like that, but you can go over,
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I get it.
and I mean, people are obviously, you're always going to find somebody who comes up with something to break a rule. And, they've been very careful, as we know, over the years to avoid those kind of issues as much as they can without, you can't guess everything, but I think they're, like we said earlier, I think they're being more responsive. Do you think they're being more, the early years, geocaching, the early years, I felt like that they were a little more standoffish. Do you think that was more, you guys?
I don't think that they were actually being standoffish. They were just overwhelmed.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems fair.
I know that that's like a subtle difference, but it is a big difference.
Do you feel like, so they feel more comfortable in what they're doing, and they don't feel as much pressure to do this, that, and the other like they were before?
They've finally gotten to a point where they've got a good support team going that can handle the volume. They're, a good set of reviewers. It's, we've hit our stride essentially, and now we can start actually working to build the community.
I think they were trying to figure it all out too.
It's uncharted.
At the very beginning, it's like, okay, we're doing this thing. I think the first thing they noticed was people wanted to come and see where they worked. And I think that was a big shock to them at the beginning. It's like, why do you want to come and see where we work? We're
geocaching is out in nature. You don't want to come see a building.
And everyone's like, no, you don't understand. We do. We want to see where the magic happens, and they've built that up too. At the beginning, it was just, okay, here's our desk and here's where we work. Now
here's the mouse I use every day. And here's my water cup
thing. Yeah. So they've embraced it. They've expanded it out more. And that's, I think some of that came out of, they did the block party and they did other things like that where, hey, let's get, people want to see where we're at. We'll show them where we're at. Come on down.
Well, yeah, because Rick, wasn't it, like you said, there wasn't really anything, and then obviously over time now you can like watch a screen, watch caches be found, and they've got obviously the amount of trackables that get put in the front there, has gotten gets to be big, and then it just like you said, you can almost kind of see the transition of them kind of going, oh well, people do want to come see us and see what GC is like. So
yeah, but geocaching is now out of their teenage. Well, no, next year they're out of their teenage years.
Yeah, it's true.
They can start to be able to drink legally.
Well, they're still 2 years away from drinking.
Right.
Depends on when you grew up.
I don't know. For me, like I said, we've seen the lackeys and we've seen Jeremy down at Champooey. I can say that geocaching, they do just fine.
Well, the whole company doesn't.
Right.
No, but it's a matter of, this is like the biggest puzzle cache they've ever done, and they're still working on it, but they're getting close to solving it. How's that?
I don't know. I don't know if they will ever really solve it. I don't know if it's something you can solve, because not only are they going to change, but also the caching community is going to change. I think it's going through a change right now. I think there are some things that are changing. I think the people who've been around for a long time are starting to fall off. I think there's a few new people coming in. That's going to change what the desires are, what we expect from this company, what we expect them to provide to us, and what we hope they will provide to us. It's going to change.
The community is constantly in flux, which it should be. It's a lively community, and the game is changing based on those desires. And some people love it, some people don't like that. The move to the park and grabs has been a big turnoff for a lot of the original geocachers.
Yep.
But that's the way it is, and hopefully there's enough other caches for them to do that they don't have to do those ones that they don't appreciate as much.
Right.
It's like a channel on your TV. If you don't like it, just change the channel.
And I think that's the hardest part, is for a lot of people to get to that point of, but this game is about me. But they have to realize that you make the choice. You don't have to find all the caches. You don't have to go and do a certain type of cache. If you don't like puzzle caches, don't do them. If you don't like multis, don't do them. If you only want to do the forest puzzle or forest caches, knock yourself out.
Go for it, right?
Yeah, if you're on a streak and you only want to do you want to do anything you can get your hands on, the world's your oyster. But you make the choice.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll stay that way too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cache the line in the chat, and it just went away. There it goes. Okay. Says, I think additive change tends to go over better than change that removes some aspects that people like, which I think is probably true.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, sometimes we have to remove something to make sure that the game survives and doesn't turn into total chaos.
I was out caching with somebody last weekend, a couple weekends ago actually, and we were talking about the old locationless caches, because he started after they went away, and I was explaining to him how they worked, and he just looked at me amazed. He's like, wow, that sounds horrible. I said, yeah, that's why they went away. It's because it weren't. But there were a lot of people that love those. They loved the concept behind them, and they went out and found them. They were upset that they went away, but it didn't make sense for them to be there.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it's problems.
They were okay with winter caches when you didn't want to get out of the car.
Well, they were interesting in their own right, but it's not geocaching as it turned out that we were going to be. And I liked virtual caches so much, but there were so many bad ones, so they had to get rid of them because they were causing problems and dragging down the whole game.
Yeah. I mean, there's some items like that I think challenge caches, for example, was sort of such a mishmash that I think that they really racked their brains about how do we go forward with challenge caches. And I think, in my opinion, I think they did a really good job of sort of making challenges workable with Project GC. I mean, people are still like, oh, I can't do this kind of, this kind of challenge, blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of them are still out there, but you know what I mean? There's you have to step back and think about it from their perspective. That it makes more sense now, I think, is a good way to put it. Just it works better. It functions better.
Why don't we move on to some of the stuff that we'd like to see come out if they were so deemed? Stuff that maybe we'd think should happen that has been on the planning boards, or that we'd just like to see. And I'm going to start with lab caches. And we've had the lab caches for several years now. I like the concept, but I am a little annoyed that it's only at like certain events and stuff that you get to do them, especially with this new app, though. I do have hope that we're going to see.
Do you like the new app, Daryl? Have you tried it yet?
I have not tried. Well, I've opened it. I've looked for caches and seen can't do any lab caches. But
I'm only 242 miles away from one. I should go try it. Go ahead.
I haven't looked. I thought I'm closer than that, but not by much. But I think that this is a great solution to the problem of virtuals. So I'd love to see those.
Oh, yeah.
Opened up, but maybe with some kind of limits. And someone had suggested like a pay model for that. I'm not sure that I really like the paid model so much, because then it becomes commercial.
Yeah.
And I don't mean necessarily commercial in the promotion sense, but commercial in the sense that, this is now a good that you're essentially buying. So maybe it's something that you're awarded kind of like favorite points. That I kind of like.
Do you like the fact that in the, and this is probably what you were getting at. I'm looking right now at one. I pulled up a lab cache 37 miles away, and it says, and you can't log it. It says you have to get closer. So obviously I can't armchair that anymore.
Right. My closest is 350 something miles away.
Right. I liked it. I mean, I liked it that they thought through. I mean, they're obviously in beta on that, but still.
Sure.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, I do kind of wonder at some point if it wouldn't be better for them to turn this into the new virtual cache and move on and start working on another version of Where I Go. Something that's
How long is the show? Can we talk now?
No, I'm just saying. I think that there are things that they could do, and these are the two that come to mind. I'd love to see lab caches come to something and be a replacement for virtuals, and I'd love to see an update to Where I Goes to bring them up to current specs and make them usable, because right now we've got some good tools, but it's still so rough to play them.
Do you feel that the replacement for that might be AR?
It could be, and that's one of the things that I would love to see them end up with in the new Where I Go. But I don't think that the AR stuff that we've seen is really that good, and I think the AR tools that we've seen are trying to do a little too much to be a reasonable geocache.
Well, true. I know that there's some people working on, I think that Jesse Tuttle and them are working on something for it. Metaverse to me has been decent. I'm not a big fan of. Have you done much HP reveal caches? Or
I have done no HP reveal caches.
I haven't either. Metaverse is the only one I've really dealt with, and I don't know. I'm not going to be the guy to get off my lawn guy, but I kind of like the way. I don't want, in my opinion, is I don't want them to try too hard to become something that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the argument I always had when they seem to have been offended, or they tended to have been very defensive about like Munzie and Pokemon Go, mostly Munzie. And my thought was always, don't worry about Muncie. You guys are not, it's not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. I mean, you guys don't need to feel threatened, in my opinion. They don't need to be threatened by that because you're geocaching. I mean, geocaching is not, in my opinion, it's not threatened by that. It's its own sport, in my opinion. It's its own thing, and it will always remain different. And that's why I like the fact that it's different. I don't want them to become some kind of, I got to constantly run around with an app in my hand, you know, other than Cashly, but that's a different story. You know what I mean, though? Does that make sense?
Oh, I totally get it. And again, as long as they add this stuff to the games and make it something that you can easily filter out, I love it.
Right.
But I like doing letterboxes, but I don't want to do them all the time. And to me, the Where I Goes and the ARs are just different iterations on that concept of going by a story, navigating by a story. Cash the Line said that Where I Go would do great to adopt the AR tech, AR tools, metaverse primarily, can do Where I Go like experiences. All this stuff just needs to be combined in one. And he says he made metaverse and HP combined AR. HP Reveal
Yes, he did.
is better true AR, but metaverse is a camera glorified Where I Go.
Yeah.
I as long as they keep giving us these kinds of tools or keep, don't dump all their money into one thing, a little bit like you were saying, Gary.
Yeah.
As long as they're giving us these tools and saying, we're going to try this, we're going to try this, we're going to try this, people are going to take it and run. I mean,
sure.
You see what, people do the metaverse and HP reveal. I know that, people have really grabbed onto, I know geocaching hasn't done anything really like this, but cachers have. They've grabbed onto 3D printing. We're going to use this technology, bring this into geocaching and make our own cache containers and make our hides really tricky. Mm-hmm. Take the technology, go with the times, make the changes you need to make, and the advancements are going to come. As long as they keep trying and keep playing with different things. Where It Goes were fun for a while. I still like doing them from time to time if they're done well, but it was a chance they took. They're trying. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, and they've tried other things. In the chat, they mentioned the old geocaching challenge app, which didn't go over very well.
No.
That went away real quick. And I still contend that one of the biggest problems with that was they used the word challenge, which had a totally different meaning to geocachers. So it didn't go over well in large part because of that. They also have the waymarking site that's still alive and kicking, and still an interesting site for many people. I haven't been on in years though, and I really keep meaning to go back.
Well, speaking of locationless, that kind of was what they did with locationless. They
and virtual
waymarking. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been trying these other things, but decided a few years back that they needed to really focus on geocaching. And I think that's really helped all of us because it's not a huge company. They only have a finite number of resources. And guess what? Putting it back into geocaching makes the most sense. All right. We are getting a little long. Chris, you want to read this email from GSM times 2 though?
I would love to.
Would love to read it.
After you hack up a lung.
Thank you. Let me put it back down. GSM times 2 says, for me, geocaching is the places you get to go and the friends you get to know. Here's a short example of the friends I have gotten to know. I met Ojai T and Bad Feet and Carol and Feral Cat through geocaching. Over the years, we've become true friends. Last year, when Ojai T's daughter was planning her wedding, she asked Bad Feet to be the officiant. I volunteered to video the ceremony, and Feral Cat stepped up to be the girl Friday, the day of the wedding. I think that is a great example of the friendships that are possible through geocaching, which exists primarily because of the continuing efforts of Geocaching HQ. So yes, I #heart GCHQ, he says.
That's good.
It's really good. Yeah. And that's they've made this sport. They keep it going. They keep promoting things. They keep getting us out there to see things. That's how I met you guys. That's how I met a lot of friends on geocaching. You go to a random location, you meet up with other geocachers, you find yourself, rappelling down a well with people you just met. Why not? That's the fun. That's why we like doing this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Geocaching HQ, for keeping it going, letting us do this.
Well, we're all friends here because of geocaching. And my wife is still amazed that, I'll get in a car and drive to another state with people I've never met.
Right.
So it's fine.
Exactly.
I'm going to go out in the woods with somebody I just met in a state, across the country from me. Why? Because it's going to be fine. Because
geocaching. Yeah.
Geocaching.
And I think I'm going to amend something that you just said, Rich, which was, sorry, Rick. Sorry, apologize. I keep doing that to you today.
That's fine.
But I'm going to say that GCHQ powers geocaching, but it's the people, the lackeys, the volunteers, and the caches themselves that really make geocaching.
I accept that. I agree. Perfect.
Okay. Well, with that, let's wrap it up. But before we let you guys go, Gary, why don't you give us a rundown of what your podcast is for anyone who might have missed that somehow?
Sure. Geocache Talk, geocachetalk.com. We are on Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we're going to be coming up on 3 years, Daryl. Can you believe it? 3 years. Daryl was instrumental in helping me get this thing started, and it's been going well. So we invite you to come join along. It's very similar, as you'll notice, very similar to GeoGearHeads, because Daryl is my hero, and Chris, both.
Oh, better heroes.
It's I Heart GeoGearHeads.
I Heart GeoGearHeads.
We're getting a lot of I Heart hashtags in the chat. I'm enjoying those too.
It's good.
And then Rick, you met your podcasting friend and buddy doing geocaching. So even though your show isn't about geocaching, we'll call it a geocaching show.
Thank you very much. Cowboy Bebop and I, we met geocaching, and now we're doing a podcast called Unpacking the Power of Power Pack, which is about a comic book from the 80s. We go over the comic books while we drink beer, and we have a lot of laughs. And every now and again, we drop in some kind of geocaching related thing because we can. But you can find us on anywhere you find good podcast. It's Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. And thank you for letting me plug that geocaching adjacent show, we'll call it.
It's our pleasure. And go back and check out the show that Cowboy Bebop and Lobotomy did on friendships. That was a lot of fun. Oh, Chris got an interesting heart in there.
Nice.
Sorry, guys.
Look at that heart. Wow, Chris.
Wow, that's impressive.
GCHQ.
Geocaching Vlogger, who we got our inspiration from for this week, is in the chat room. So shout out to Joshua, the Geocaching Vlogger. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Josh. Thank you very much.
It was a great idea. I'm glad that he embraced it and brought everybody involved in all the podcasts and vloggers. There've been a lot of cool videos. Have y'all have been able to catch a couple of the videos at all, or?
I have not been able to keep up with my podcasts lately, so
vlogs.
I admit to having watched the original iHeart GCHQ video that Josh had done and had to repost, but I didn't catch the repost.
You've been very busy lately. So
I have. And I probably shouldn't admit that watching is probably a little bit more than I actually did. More like half listen, half watch.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's okay. As I'm like running around doing other things, I'm watching on the phone. That's about the best I can do right now.
And this is nothing against you two guys and your looks, but for many years I just listened to the show. I never really watched the show, and that has nothing to do with the beauty of Chris Stumpfenauer. I mean, that's different.
I really think it is.
Hey,
No.
I don't have a chance to watch almost anything. I got a chance to podcast stuff and listen to it. Unfortunately, with the changes at work, I just can't keep up. So,
yeah,
we totally get everyone who's running into similar problems. But one of the interesting things that we've seen has been a lot of those people who used to listen now just pop up in the YouTube videos at work and kind of keep them in the corner while they're working.
Exactly.
Different ways to enjoy the show.
So, yeah, plenty of ways to consume podcasts now. I love it. All right. And next week, we're going to have another randomized show. So anyone who's got questions, feedbacks, points of interest, email those to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Keep them coming because we've got quite a few little bits and pieces. Really interesting one came in today. Chris, I don't know if you had a chance to check that one out, but I think we're going to have some fun talking about that
today. But I don't think I saw the one you're referring to.
Oh, yeah. Something on the personal locator beacons.
Ooh.
So I'm thinking at some point in the near future, we're going to have to do a show on those. And I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone yet. I got two people I want to talk to.
Personal locator beacon. Let us know what you think of it. Send that into GeoGearHeads@cachemaniacs.com. I don't know what the randomized show is. Use the
just call it for show 370.
37. Oh, yeah, that would do it. 370. Randomize and throw in a bunch of Roman numerals after it. It'll be close enough.
Well, but you have to throw in enough. It has to be substantially more than the big game is going to be, because they're way behind us on that.
Oh,
lots of L's. Put lots of L's.
A few M's, maybe a C, just for fun.
Yeah, wow. Just to make it really confusing.
Yeah, I loved it at 50. They didn't want to use L. They had to use 50 that year.
Nice.
But folks, until next week, make sure you check out the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Stumpfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. The show's copyright 2019 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.